All right, and welcome back to the Shardbreaker podcast. We are on episode 4 of Arcanum Unbounded. We are doing Mistborn: A Secret History, part 2, chapter 3, until all the way through the end of part 5. And yeah, I am your host, Midnight. I am here with Darkness
Hello.
and Mythic.
I don't know who that is.
You don't? That's weird.
No idea who that is. You can call me the stranger now.
The stranger.
Yep. We have the traveler now. We have the stranger.
I see. Are you part of the Irie?
But,
No,
Oh,
I'm
no.
against the Irie 100%. Fuck those motherfuckers.
I love that we gotta find out more about the Irie.
Yeah. I'm just like astounded that it's actually called the Cosmere. Like that's not like a fan-made thing. This
No,
is
yeah, it's
legitimately
the
in the
Cosmere.
book. It said, "Oh, hey, yeah, no, it's the Cosmere." I'm like,
I'm pretty sure we used the word Cosmere in the what's it called in the little essay things that we've
"Oh
done.
yeah, probably," but a character actually called it the Cosmere. So.
Yes. I mean, we meet the person who writes the essays. Did you remember who wrote the
No.
essays? Chris.
No.
Chris writes the essays.
Okay. I don't
We
know who
meet
Chris
her.
is.
She's the one who
Fuck
writes
them.
all the little things
Yeah.
about each of the planets.
Fuck the two
the one
of
with the reality TV show.
The one with the gun.
those.
She's got a gun.
Eh.
Which Kelsey was like, the fuck is this tube thing, and why is she treating it like a weapon?
I know. I was like, that's a gun.
That's a gun, sir. Which your ancient ancestors had, but the Lord Ruler got rid of.
Mhm.
Alright, chapter 3 of part 2. Kelsier is hanging out with Fuzz, who is at the well more often lately.
It's not Fuzz.
It's Fuzz. Calls
No,
him
it's
Fuzz.
not. Preservation.
He calls him
It's
Fuzz.
I know what he calls him, but that's not who he is.
So Kelsier hypothesizes that Ruin's power comes through here at the well, and Fuzz is using his own powers like a plug to keep Ruin from coming through. However, he says,
So wrong.
yeah, he's like, no, that's utterly wrong,
What was-
Kelsier.
Oh, I loved it.
What was his actual name?
Preservation? Or do you mean like
No,
his
actual-
Laris? His name is
yeah.
Laris.
What was the metal's name?
Larasium.
Larasium?
Right.
Or Lara-
Okay.
I don't know if maybe it's actually pronounced Larasium. For some reason, I've always pronounced it Larasium, but it's probably Larasium. But yeah, so Fuzz says that Kelsier is utterly wrong, and Kelsier's annoyed because that he'd gotten it wrong, as he'd spent weeks on that theory apparently. He also thinks that things are getting urgent, as Ruin seems to be more active, and the power at the well seems to be condensing. Fuzz then tells Kelsier that as gods, their powers permeate everything, although it also collects here at the well. Kelsier tries to prod for more info, but Fuzz goes silent. Kelsier then asks if Fuzz is scared of Ruin killing him, but Fuzz replies that he is already dead. Kelsier tries to refute that as they are talking, but Fuzz says that Kelsier is also dead yet talking.
I loved that. I love that. He's like, but you can't be dead. We're talking to each other. But we're talking to each other and you're dead.
Like, we're both dead, sir. We're both dead people talking to each other.
Yep. I thought that was hilarious.
I love how sassy he gets in some of these chapters.
Yeah. I mean, if only he could, do what needs to be done.
Um,
I mean, if he would have just murdered his brother to preserve the rest of the world, then,
Then that wouldn't be preserving.
what are you talking about? Yeah, what? He preserves
That would be
everything else.
ruining somebody's life.
yeah, but he's still
No.
ruining something to preserve it.
Yeah, but he preserved other things, so.
That's why he created people, so they could preserve.
No, he created people so that they could
Oh,
fight
to be
his own
fair,
battles, bro.
I don't think it would be any better if he got rid of Ruin and it was just
I don't either. Honestly, I like Ruin says it pretty much the exact way I thought about it. Like,
And
it's
I actually
just-
believe like what he say. Like,
yeah, like I'm like, as much as I don't like Ruin is got a point here. They
need
would
to
all
balance.
be literally, yeah, they would all literally be just de-aging, or not de-aging, but like non-aging.
it would
They just be
be
statues.
human Barbie dolls.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was
They'd
like,
basically just be lifeless.
yep. I mean, we saw
Actually,
how
lifeless
saw how
are
they are.
different.
I know they're different.
Are they though?
Puz then clarifies that he died when he broke their promise, but that parts of him, the power, remain and remember. So what do you think about the fact that Preservation technically died when he broke his promise to Ruin?
Makes sense.
Not wrong. Yeah.
Also, do you think that Preservation would have eventually died even if Ruin had continued to be locked away because of that fact?
What?
Are you
So-
saying
that?
Are you
If-
saying he would have killed himself?
No, so I'm saying if he's technically died when he broke the promise, way back when, would he technically, because he's like slowly unraveling now, even with Ruin still trapped, would he have eventually died anyways? Even if like say the Lord Ruler still lived and trapped Ruin longer, like would preservation slowly have just died off on his own?
I think it would have withered away. Yeah, but the other problem that I find though would be then the Irie would come in and steal the shards. So you know,
They seem like cool people.
they did not seem like the one group seemed like very idiotic people. We'll get to it. It's so dumb.
Yep.
People are so dumb.
Kelsier then brings up that he looked at Ruin again, and Fuzz tells him to stay away, even though his power should protect Kelsier, and that he only delayed Ruin, not fully imprisoned him. Fuzz then mentions how the power needs to be used to keep Ruin locked up, and that releasing the power would free Ruin. He then focuses on another one of him and notes that he put her in place to deal with this, but that Ruin has also been talking to her. Fuzz then brings up how Alendi would have done the wrong thing, even though he thought it was right, which is why Rashek was needed. Kelsier then says that he could take the power so that Ruin isn't released. However, Fuzz just stares at Kelsier. Kelsier says that Fuzz let Rashek use the power, but Fuzz replies that Rashek tried to save the world, whereas Kelsier just tried to save a boat full of people from a fire by sinking their ship, and then said at least they didn't burn to death. Fuzz also says that Kelsier isn't connected enough to him to use the power. So what do you think of Fuzz's metaphor for Kelsier saving the Ska from the Lord Ruler? And
it's so true, though.
He's like, yeah, you just drowned them instead of letting them burn. Like, you didn't help.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong, though. Like,
he's not.
Honestly. He's just like, yeah, man, I saved the world. No, you didn't. You died. And then they all are going to die because of your mistake. Like, literally. Every one of them.
You're just dying a slower death.
Yeah, like, what the hell? I mean, granted, we're talking about a person who only put a stopgap to a problem and thought it would just, go away eventually or something.
What do you think, Dirkness?
I mean, it's an accurate depiction. To be fair, I get it was necessary, but like from the very beginning of like when he's like essentially sacrificed all those people in that war thing, in that like battle or whatever, I was like, he's doing it that way.
And also, what do you think about someone having to be connected to preservation in order to take the power?
It makes sense. That's why our boy Says is the only one who can take both powers. He's connected to both sides.
He's got both. Do you think Vin technically could have taken both then as well, since she's also kind of connected to Ruin?
No.
She is connected to Ruin, huh? Because of the fucking hemalurgy.
Well, I think they're humanity is pretty much connected to both sides, but because
but she like actively used
Kelsier's dead. Yeah, but because Kelsier's dead, that's why he's not connected, because he's no longer neither.
I think it's more so that Ruin influenced Kelsier so much, and Kelsier was so intent on killing nobles and doing a lot of killing, that's why he's more connected to Ruin, because of his nature.
But so is Vin. Like, Vin literally murders people, like, left and right.
I feel like that's more of like a necessary thing than of like, oh, like, I guess I'll just kill them,
She also went through the whole kind of thing with Seth, though, where she killed all his guards, and then she's like, wait, what am I doing? This is wrong. This is like Kelsier.
Yeah.
I can't kill him. I can't do this. I need to not kill people as much.
And then literally, like, little bit later, she's like, I'm gonna murder all of y'all. Like, I don't care who I'm murdering. I'm murdering everyone.
She's mostly murdering Koloss after that.
I mean, that's what, 5 humans each Koloss? It's pretty crazy.
I mean, they're kind of already dead. It depends on how they fit in with the whole connections to preservation and Ruin, because I think they're probably a lot more connected to Ruin, so she's killing Ruin's creations instead of preservations.
But she's still killing, though.
True.
I mean, if we're going on the fact that Kelsier couldn't be connected to preservation due to the fact that he's killing nobles left and right, then neither could she, because she's killing people left and right constantly.
I think
the only person who wasn't would be Sazed.
I think also her using because I don't think you have to be fully connected to preservation to like use the powers. Oh no, because he says that with Kelsier, because he's talking about not taking the shard fully. It's a bit confusing.
Mm-hmm.
The whole connection thing.
How is Sazed connected to preservation though?
So Ferrochemists are
all the time.
Yeah, because Ferrochemists are an equal mix of preservation and Ruin.
Yeah, I figured.
It's the mixed power. And generally, Allomancy is more of preservation.
Allomancy's preservation, Hemalurgy is Ruin, and fucking...
Ferrochemy's both.
Ferrochemy's both, yeah. That's why I say is the only one who could take his power.
Or just a Ferrochemist in general. probably.
Nope, Say's only.
Um,
I mean, all the
Also-
Ferrochemists are dead anyways, so it doesn't matter.
yeah. Also, I just wanted to. I just remembered to remind Mythic. All this connection talk. C is capitalized for connection. It is a
Okay,
capitalized
that,
word.
that doesn't give me any information, but
I
okay.
just thought I feel like I need to make sure I mention
I
when words
gotcha.
are capitalized to you.
Yeah, I should probably read the book themselves, honestly, but
So Vin then enters the chamber, and Fuzz asks if Kelsier really thought he was here for no reason. Elend also enters the room, but Kelsier isn't mad as he doesn't really have anything against Elend. He just thinks the crew should have known better than to put a nobleman in charge. He also thinks that it's a positive towards Elend that he stayed with Vin this whole time. He's warming up to Elend a little bit more. It's like, oh, he did stay with her, I guess, after through all this.
I guess he did stay with my daughter.
Guess he can be my son-in-law. So Elend kneels next to the well, and Kelsier says that if he touches it, he'll slap him. Which I found funny. He's like, oh yeah, he's fine. Don't fucking touch the power, though, bitch. Fuzz, however, replies that Elend knows that the power is for Vin. Kelsier then notes that Vin seems to be able to see Fuzz as she is looking right at him. Kelsier asks if Fuzz explained to Vin in any way what she needs to do, as Ruin had been working on Vin. Fuzz also explains that when Ruin pretended to try to kill Elend, he was trying to imitate him and create distrust. However, Fuzz seems to think that Vin should be able to tell the difference between him and Ruin. Their versions of the Mist Spirit. So what do you think about Preservation's trust in Vin being able to tell the difference between him and Ruin's Mist Spirits when she very obviously did not?
that made me laugh so much because like I was like, they really did not.
Oh, she died. Oh, she's back. Well, you died for a minute, and then you came back. You resurrected.
Oh, she did.
But yeah, I like though how he was kind of just like they kind of just took it as like, oh yeah, he was just trying to keep us away from going the wrong way to the well. That's all. That's why he tried to stab Ellen previously, and then he stabbed Ellen to make sure that we like used the power. None of it was evil. It definitely was all preservation.
I don't even think at this point though they knew the difference between the two, like that they were even existing.
They didn't even know Ruin existed.
Yeah, like.
And also, just like, I don't think she ever figures out that one Mist Spirit was Ruin. She's just like, oh, Ruin can take the form of my brother.
Yeah, but she doesn't think anything about the fact that it could take, the Mist Spirit.
Yeah, she's like, the Mist Spirit is obviously preservation, but Ruin's stronger, so he can be a full person.
Makes sense.
So Fuzzin says that he can hear Vin's mind, but he cannot speak to her. So the kind of whole thing is apparently preservation can hear minds, but not speak to you. Ruin can speak to you, but cannot hear your thoughts.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're the same. Yeah, they're
like
the two sides of one coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two sides of one coin.
So
it makes sense.
Yeah. Which probably means that Seisa's harmony is going to be able to do both.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to meet them in the next one.
I'd rather not.
It's like, I can hear your thoughts and I speak to you.
Well,
Nothing is safe.
In your mind
He sounds very annoying.
Nothing is safe. Honestly. He's Santa Claus. He knows when you've been naughty or nice.
Oh my god, why did you have to bring it to Christmas?
So Kelsier thinks he needs a plan to get Vin to use the power instead of releasing it, and tells Fuzz to stab Elend so that she'll use the power to save him. However, Fuzz says he can't do that. He can't act like Ruin.
Good plan, though.
Kelsier insists, and Fuzz causes the knife to appear, looking at it and calling it old friend. He reluctantly raises the knife, but then looks pained and says he can't do it. Kelsier apologizes to Elend and then takes Fuzz's hand and uses the knife to slash Elend across the stomach. He feels horrible. Yep. He feels horrible.
I told you he was going to do it.
He feels horrible knowing what this will do to Vin as she falls down next to him weeping. Kelsier was sure she would save Elend, though, since he knows that she loves him. So yeah. What did you think of Kelsier being the one to technically stab Elend?
I was right. That's all I thought of when it happened. I was like, I was right.
What did you think, Darkness?
I like the little interactions right before it happens.
He's like, stab him. He's like, I can't do it. Stab him. But I can't.
It's like the knife out, and I imagine when like
I don't know why he took the knife out if he wasn't going to do it. To be honest,
I think he wanted to. I think he knew that because he says afterwards like you were right to do that. That was a good plan, basically.
It's a good plan. Just
I just physically can't force myself to do
useless.
this.
Bullshit. He can't. That's so dumb. You're a god. Who cares?
Well, to be fair, if your whole domain is a specific thing, you don't want to go against it.
Meh. I feel like he's just being a baby.
He is a baby.
A big baby.
He's a dying baby.
Oh no.
No, he's a dead baby.
Yeah,
He
he's
was
a
already
dead
dead.
baby.
Yeah. He's not dying. He's
Yeah,
dead.
that's true. He's dead already. He's dead, but also dying at the same time.
Okay. Living
Uh,
in between. Yeah.
So Kelsier wonders if Vin will be able to see him when she enters the well, or if her using the power will
Nope.
release him. He then sees Ruin's power pressing against its confines, spider-like legs reaching out, and one with a human-like puppet on the end. He can
I
hear
loved the fucking imagery
Spider.
of this.
Yeah. So he can hear it whispering to Vin. Vin enters the well, and Kelsier hears Ruin telling her not to save Elend. Kelsier screams for Vin not to listen, but his voice is drowned out by the roar of the power. So what do you think about Ruin's power looking almost spider-like, and that his vessel is almost just like a puppet of it at this point?
Apparently, Ruin is Lolth.
That's scary.
Just uses it as like a little doll. It's like of his old body, just like on the end of it.
No.
So Vin, sorry.
I said no. I'm not gonna imagine that.
Vin, however, did the most selfless thing and released the power, dooming them all. The power created a spear and ripped through reality, releasing Ruin, and Ruin rushes free into the world. And then we have a short chapter, chapter 4 of part 2. Kelsier sits on the edge of the empty well, no longer trapped in it. He watches as Vin cries over Elend as he slowly dies. He then sees Fuzz approach the two and say that he can preserve him. Kelsier spins and watches as Fuzz leads Vin over to the small bead of metal that is laying on the floor. Vin feeds the bead of metal to Elend and washes it down with a vial of metals. Elend's body glows with power, and he begins to burn pewter to heal. Kelsier compliments Fuzz on helping Elend, and Fuzz replies that although stabbing Elend was painful, perhaps it was the right thing to do. Kelsier mentions that Ruin is now...
Perhaps it was. Not it was. Perhaps it was.
Kelsier...
He's still questioning.
Yeah, still a little bit. He's like, it hurts me, but it was possibly right.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm confused and crazy, and I'm a child.
Kelsier then mentions that Ruin is now free, and Fuzz replies that he had a plan. Kelsier tries to joke that Fuzz should ask which is more dangerous to release, him or Ruin. However, Fuzz seriously says that he knows which is more dangerous. But then he jokes that he isn't sure which is more annoying. Kelsier slaps Fuzz on the
That part was I liked because it was like because they even like put in there that he smirks a bit too.
Yeah.
Like he knew it was a joke. Like that was crazy.
Yeah. So Kelsier
It's
slaps
like,
Fuzz
oh
on the
man,
shoulder.
he does learn.
Yeah. Kelsier slaps Fuzz on the shoulder and says he wants to get out of this room. Yeah. So did you like the growing bond between Fuzz and Kelsier? And they're like kind of joking with each other, getting to know each other. They're crewmates.
Who the fuck do they think they are doing that shit at that time?
When he stated that he was like, oh, we're gonna be what was it? We're gonna be a crew or something like that. When I was like, oh no, this is gonna go so bad. Oh, we're a crew now, right? Do you even know what happens to the rest of his crew? Like,
right?
He does not care.
I mean, only like half of them die.
I'm pretty sure the other half are like more than traumatized. So
they're probably a little traumatized, but they're fine. So then we start part 3 called Spirit, chapter 1.
I was like, when I read that, I was like, Elantris?
Right. Throudon, he's back.
Mm-hmm.
I wish.
Kelsier finds himself craving something to drink, even though when he was alive he often didn't want to drink as he wanted to stay in control of his situation. He makes his way out of the cavern and into the Lord Ruler's palace, and then into the streets of Luthadel. He wanders the streets for a whole day and notices the Kolos army outside the walls that for some reason isn't killing anyone. Kelsier eventually goes to try to find his friends, which takes a while without Ruin's pulses to guide him. They seem to be holding a funeral when he arrives at Keep Venture. Kelsier notes that Vin is sitting huddled on the steps with Ham next to her. Demo seems to be holding the service, and he recognizes many of the Ska around. He also notices a disturbing number of Ska who used to work as soldiers for the Lord Ruler, because he still fucking hates anyone who worked for the Lord Ruler. Kelsier begins speaking to Vin, even though she can't hear him, mentioning that she may have released Ruin, but at least she killed the Lord Ruler and still has her nobleman boyfriend. He puts his arm around her shoulders and tells her that he will beat this thing. Preservation then appears and asks how he's going to accomplish that. What do you think of Kelsier going to Vin and trying to comfort her, even though she couldn't hear him?
He's still trying to be a father, even when he's in bed.
Yeah, he's still dead. What do you think, Darkness?
I keep wanting to trigger people with the maybe it is a relationship.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, kind of is, honestly.
Yeah, you see Midnight.
Oh my
He's totally
gosh.
trying to be, more than a friend.
Mm-hmm. So Kelsier winces when he glances at Preservation, who is basically just wispy threads in the shape of a head, arms, and legs. Preservation says that Kelsier can't stop Ruin, but Kelsier says he'll delay him again then, and mentions that Preservation keeps saying he had a plan. Kelsier says that now that he is free, he can help with the plan, but Preservation just says Kelsier is just in a larger prison now.
What does Preservation look like?
I've shown you pictures of Preservation.
Yeah, no, but I meant like in that.
Apparently, it just looks like a bunch of threads in like the shape of a person.
That's cool.
Sorry, I muted
Which
the
one of these
cough.
people is Preservation?
Can we like get to the Adonasium talk? Cause
We'll get
Oh
there.
yeah. Mhm.
So Preservation then mentions that Ruin is watching, and Kelsier replies that if he has a soul, then he can be killed. He also thinks that Preservation is being killed, so Ruin should be able to be killed as well. Preservation then laughs about how Demo is preaching about the survivor at the funeral, although Kelsier can't hear him. Kelsier then glances at the corpses and worries about his friends. Preservation then reveals to Kelsier that Clubs and Dox have died days ago, and Kelsier feels horrible that he wasn't there to see Dox when he died. Preservation tells Kelsier that Dox was cursing him when he died, blaming him for this. So what do you think about the fact that Kelsier was unable to speak to his best friend when he died?
I mean, in all honesty, like, is that the worst part? Because I feel like the worst part is the fact that he can't even go see his, now dead wife. So
Yeah, but he didn't even have a chance to see her when she died there. I mean, he could have moved on, but like when she died, he didn't have a chance to say goodbye properly. But for Dox, he potentially could have.
I still say she got eaten along with the rest of the people that moved on. So
Eaten?
yeah, they're used as energy.
Mm-hmm. So Kelsier then feels angry and turns to look at Preservation, and he can see into the eternity of Preservation's eyes that he feels the same loss as Kelsier feels about Dox, except for every person who is dying. People are dying rapidly due to all the ash falling. He also notes that there seem to be people to the south that they don't know of. Preservation sadly says that he is losing them all, and Kelsier says that they will stop this, break the deal. Preservation says they can't break this deal, and Kelsier replies that they'll go out kicking and screaming as a team then, which Preservation likes the thought of them being a crew. So what do you think about these unknown people to the south? Do you think they'll survive Sazed fixing the world and come up in other books?
what was that?
So
What's
Kelsier mentions that when he looks into Preservation's eyes, he can like see like basically all these people on the planet like dying and stuff. But he also mentions that there's people to like this like far south that they have no idea exist.
Uh-huh.
And so my question was, first of all, so like, what do you think about these random people that have had nothing to do with the first 3 books?
No mention.
Yeah, and also, do you think they're going to survive Sazed fixing the world? Because they might not be underground like everyone else.
I mean, I feel like Sazed isn't that dumb, right?
why wouldn't they survive? Oh, because they're not on the ground.
Yeah,
Right.
because all the people will only survive because they were underground and weren't being burned up by the sun as the planet moved.
Sazed would know.
He should, yeah.
Would he though?
But the thing is, how long into the power would he take to be able to know? Would he know in time?
They're like flying off the fucking surface.
Also, would they not?
mean,
They could also potentially already be like burning to death as
Burned
he's
to
taking
death.
the power.
That's what I was thinking, but like, I doubt. I just wonder if this is like, it's because what's in the south?
I need to get a map of Final Empire again. I think there's some islands to the south, and then there's something called the Remote Dominance, and we don't know what's past that. We've also been told in the essay that basically the only people can only exist on the poles of the planet due to like the way the planet was during the Lord Ruler's time.
Oh my god. What are they gonna be frozen in time? It's the Ice Age all over again.
So I think like the majority of the planet is unlivable except for the pole. So when he says south, I think he means that like they're on the northern pole and there's people on the south pole. Those people likely don't have allomancy because they're nowhere near the fucking well. They might be ferochemists, but they could have potentially no powers at all.
Huh.
What a blissful life they live.
They're just living as all this shit's going down. They have no idea why or what's happening.
They're like, why the fuck is the earth
Sun is
shaking?
The sun is getting really fucking hot today. Oh!
I wonder if they got the no, but I doubt because like
Oh yeah, I wonder if they would have technically had the mist. Like, would they have snapped it all, or is the mist only in the Final Empire?
no, but it would be because apparently when they were discussing the power of like how the ash and all that was like placed, they described it as like it covering the whole world. No.
Yeah, I think all the ash goes into like the atmosphere, so it's like fucking up the whole planet.
Huh.
So there's ash, but we don't know about the mists.
Well, if they're alive through the ash, then it's the influence
That's true.
got
They
to
could
them
have
in
also
general.
died to the ash. We don't know. I mean, they're apparently alive at this moment, but this is like just when Ruin was freed.
So they have a way of survival, whether it be like alteration through like their physiology or not.
Yeah, it's possible Rashek changed all their physiology too when he fucked up with the planet, or they evolved separately somehow. We don't really know anything about them. They're just some random people in the South Pole.
And if they're ferrochemists, they could have just like figured something out.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys have any other thoughts though about the Southerners?
Honestly, out of sight, out of mind.
Any of thoughts?
It's more Irie people.
They're the Irie.
Imagine-
But yeah, so Preservation then states that everyone always said Kelsier was insane. Kelsier replies that he never corrected that. Preservation says that he can't help directly, but that he might know where Kelsier can find someone who can help. So at this point, when you were reading, who or what were you expecting Preservation to find to help Kelsier?
Wait, who did I think he was gonna find? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because Preservation says
I thought he
he
was
can
gonna go
find
find
someone who
another
can
person
help.
like fucking the Traveler.
yeah, the fucking I forgot what his name is. The Wanderer, the Drifter, whatever.
Boyd.
Yeah. Or
There
whatever
you
the
go. No, I want to use his titles.
fuck.
Not
I
his
know, right?
names.
Yeah, right.
Saphandrius?
Just like you're using Fuzz,
Saphandrius?
I said his titles, not his
Yeah,
name.
that's
okay.
it. Yeah,
Sure,
that
whatever.
guy. Yeah, that guy.
You don't just call somebody by their names when they have titles, because
Sure you do.
Oh,
It's shorter.
no,
It's easier to type because it's
No.
shorter. It's one of the main reasons I was using Fuzz. I do start using
God.
Preservation though, because he starts calling him Fuzz less, and they use Preservation more.
You think he's a big advocate for condoms?
oh my God, preserving.
I'm just saying, like,
Well, no, actually, I feel like he would probably not be at all.
Yeah, no, because he wants
a
to
fan of
preserve the
that.
human race, and he wants it to
Yeah,
continue.
so he would want you to, have sex.
Ruin's a
without
big advocate for like abortions and condoms and all sorts of birth control. He's like, ruin the human race, get rid of them all, no more babies.
I thought you were gonna say ruin the human rights activists.
No!
that too, honestly.
He's like, no more babies, whereas Preservation's like, all the babies have 12 children each.
Oh no.
Anyways, chapter 2 of part 3. Kelsier follows a tendril of mist from Preservation, out of the city into the north to a lake. Apparently most people ignored the lake as it was more of a soupy sludge of ash and water. Which sounds pleasant. Definitely the best place to go swimming. Kelsier notes, though, that in the cognitive realm, water seems to have inverted into land, with both the river and the lake having solid ground instead of springy mist. The land that made up the lake and river seemed to be a dark, smoky stone. What do you think about land and water being inverted?
It's the upside down. Don't laugh. It's accurate. What do you mean? Like,
What do you think, Mythic?
About the
About
land and sea being averted.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, to be honest.
So Preservation's voice then comes from the thin thread of mist and asks why Kelsier has stopped. Kelsier mentions the lake becoming land, and Preservation replies that it has to do with how men think and where they travel. As Kelsier moves onto the land, he notes that plants grow here, real plants, not ones made of mist, and they seem to have mist coming off of them. As he moves through the plants, he notes something scurrying through the underbrush, and surprised that there may be creatures living here as well. So do you think that there's actually like plants and animals in the cognitive realm?
Kind of cool.
well, I mean,
I like that he corrects himself. Honestly, he's like, oh no,
this is like,
This
this was,
said it wasn't the dead. It's actually the cognitive realm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That's what I like.
this was so confusing to me in general. Because at like most points in this book, I didn't even know where the fuck they were at. Like,
You gotta get your realmatic theory going, Darkness. Gotta study up.
no, studying is.
Gotta get 100% in realmatic theory.
It's not happening. I don't get 100% in anything.
Darkness gets good grades.
Darkness gets terrible grades. What are you
No,
talking
he was
about?
telling me he got like 90-something% on something in English.
Nah, terrible.
That's
Darkness
English.
Darkness is a secret giant nerd.
I mean, but still, that's not 100 though.
Close enough.
I missed one question.
Yeah, he missed one
Still
question.
not 100.
That one question haunts Darkness. So eventually, Preservation's thread disappears, but Kelsier sees light ahead. He tries to find a weapon of a stone or a stick on the ground, but comes up with nothing. He slowly moves towards the light, and eventually sees two people sitting around a fire. One of the two was a man who seemed ska, as he wore ska clothing, and the other was a woman who was possibly Terrace, as she had quite dark skin, although she isn't wearing Terrace clothing. Kelsier thinks that he could possibly take them both, even without weapons or allomancy. However, he makes the decision to stand up straight and walk in, calling out to them. The man quickly grabs for his knife, and the woman grabs for a gun, although Kelsier doesn't know it's a gun. He's like, oh, it's like a tube with a handle that she's using as a weapon.
This is
She points it at me. What the fuck? Kelsier asks if anyone else is bothered by the force of destruction in the sky, and the man just replies that Kelsier should be dead. Kelsier asks what they're burning for fire, and then says that he decided not to die. The man stutters that one doesn't just decide to become a shadow, calling it an important rite with traditions and requirements. So what do you think about the fact that Chris has a gun?
I thought it was badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, are we gonna talk about the ritual and rites and all that? Like,
Yeah, what do you... Oh my gosh, there's someone... yeah, what do you think about, what do you think they mean by, like, traditions and rites? Do you think it's, like, what do you think all that means regarding cognitive shadows?
well, it depends where they come from. So,
Well, it sounds like it doesn't matter technically where they come from. I mean, Kelsier comes from Scadrial. There's apparently shadows in other places.
no, that's not what I meant.
I don't understand
Like,
that.
it depends where those two people come from.
Oh, I see. Well, Chris at least comes from Taldane, apparently. She'll introduce herself in a second. That's coming from Taldane.
Because clearly, you don't need it to, become one of those. Because
Apparently, you just need a shard to be like, yeah, sure. Have at it. Yeah, so Kelsier...
Well, I would say you need to just, like, punch a shard.
Punch a shard. Yeah, I guess you just need to punch a shard, then he's like, yeah, sure. Be preserved.
Preserved.
Kelsier then asks who they are when the woman calls him the survivor of Hassan. She goes on about his fame for a moment before calling herself Chris of Taldane and introduces the man working for her as Naz. Kelsier then asks why Preservation would want him to talk with them, and Naz is shocked that Kelsier spoke to one of the shards. He also takes a folding stool and sits down across the fire from Chris. Naz says that Kelsier is dangerous, but Chris replies that they are as well. She then asks... She's like, I got a gun.
That's the woman with the that's the one with the gun.
I'm fucking dangerous too. I got a gun. She then asks Kelsier how Preservation is looking, wanting to know if he actually met him, and also legitimately wondering how he is looking. Kelsier describes Preservation and then mentions that he is unraveling as he spins Naz's knife between his fingers, which he had pickpocketed. Naz cries out in surprise when he notices Kelsier has taken his knife. Chris then mentions that Preservation is going through a slow death, meaning that Atty doesn't know how to splinter a shard, or he doesn't have the strength. Kelsier asks who Atty is, and Chris just points up to the sky at Ruin. So, which do you think it is? Do you think Ruin is too weak to splinter Preservation, or do you think he does not know how?
I mean, why can't it be both?
I'd say he definitely doesn't know how, considering how he was fighting against Sven when they were in that form. So,
fair enough. Kelsier then asks what a shard is, and Chris asks if Kelsier is a scholar, to which he just replies that he's killed a couple of them. Chris calls that cute before she's like very condescending. She's like, cute. Before saying that he stumbled into something far bigger than himself or his planet. Naz takes his knife back from Kelsier and tells him that he should bow out now. Kelsier, however, begs for answers, which surprises Chris based on the rumors of Kelsier. However, she does decide to explain a bit. Chris explains that shards aren't gods but pieces of God, and lists several of the 16. Ruin, preservation, autonomy, cultivation, and devotion. She also says that others are on other planets.
It wasn't 16 though. She names off a bunch, but they're not. That's not 16.
No, she doesn't name off all 16. She just gives some examples.
Yeah, no, I want to know all 16 names.
fair, I don't think they know all of them.
You don't think so?
No.
I think they know all of them. They're fucking extremely smart.
Well, we know
Yeah,
from the
but-
essays
one
that
woman
she's
has a gun.
a scholar at Silverlight University.
Whatever
But we
that-
also know that there's things they haven't discovered, considering they specifically say they haven't discovered something.
What do they say they haven't discovered?
I think it was like a planet or some shit. I don't know.
So I was about to go into that. So she says that the other shards are on other planets, including an original planet for humans, that it is shrouded and hidden, and she has yet to find it. So that's...
Oh yeah,
she's
the one
talking
with-
about Yola,
that-
which we've talked about in the essays. So the original planet where Adonasium is from, and where apparently humans are originally from, is apparently shrouded and hidden currently. They can't re-find it.
Well, they're not gonna until they put the pieces together.
She then explains that the original god was named Adonasium, and that
Which is what the traveler's trying to do. So
and that 16 people killed it and divided its essence between them. They were the first to ascend. Kelsier asks for more info on the 16 people, and Chris replies that they were a diverse group with different motives, some wanting power and others thinking that the only good choice left was to kill Adonasium. Naz then says that the fractional gods in charge of this planet have no qualifications to be gods other than the fact that they killed one. Kristen chimes in that Adonasium created the original humans and that Preservation and Ruin used that as a template to create humans on Scadrial. I got a few questions for this because it's a bit of an info dump here of lore. First of all, the only two gods we don't know about from the list they gave are Autonomy and Cultivation, because we know that Devotion is from Cell, where Elantris is from.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Devotion's also been splintered, so we're not going to meet Devotion. Unless they can somehow reforge the Shard of Devotion. That would be a new vessel. Either way.
Wait, so does splintering mean like completely destroying, or is it like...
So splintering means it's basically like shattered their powers into like tiny fragments, and like I believe based on the Elantris, like the Cell essay, it says that they don't really have like a proper consciousness anymore. Like their powers are just like a force now, and they're not like
It's
properly
going to be
controlled.
really interesting for this traveler trying to, bring back Adonasium.
That's gonna be, maybe he knows how to
Well,
unsplinter.
all they would... Yeah, and technically all they would need was like the power itself. No?
Yeah, you would somehow need to collect the power. We just don't know how you could do that. But yeah, so we know about Ruin, Preservation, and Devotion. What do you think Autonomy and Cultivation are like based on their names? Like what sort of powers or what sort of like intents do you think they have? Ruin's intent is to like slowly destroy everything. Preservation's intent is to preserve things. What do you think Autonomy and Cultivation are?
Big words, yay.
And what was the other one?
Autonomy
I kind of have an idea of autonomy.
and Cultivation.
Cultivation's just a farmer, bro.
Their whole planet's just a farming planet.
Yep. They be playing like farming sims and stuff.
It's just Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're going by like the fact that their names are very like
Related
direct
to
to their power, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then I mean, autonomy, maybe it creates things like beings, maybe not humans.
Oh, that's what I
creates.
was gonna say. Cultivation kinda in my head is like a Grim Reaper.
Yeah, cultivates the.
It's a farmer Grim Reaper.
I mean,
Well,
hey,
to be
there's
fair,
both
they both have
sides.
thighs.
Yep.
Mythic.
Yep. Uh-huh. Cultivation, though. I mean, it could mean a lot of things, in all honesty, because you could cultivate your your.
But if it's like
history.
life creation, then you want to cultivate that life because you're the opposite.
What I mean, it's not stated that they're opposites of each other, though.
You
It's
would
not saying
think
that they're
so,
on the
'cause
same planet or anything. These are just two random shard names. They could be on completely different planets. They could be lone
That's
shards
true.
on their own planet. Like, there doesn't have to be more than one. Not every planet has two shards, and in fact, I think the essays say that it's rarer to have multiple shards on one planet. Like they weren't supposed to.
But you're telling me that like there aren't like more opposites than gods?
There might be. There might be an opposite. It doesn't mean that autonomy and cultivation are opposites, though. They could have different opposites.
But what if I want them to be?
They could be. I'm just saying that they don't have to be.
I don't know if all of them have like if all of the gods have like a metal, they have.
I say
Atium and.
It would be less of a metal and more of like a object in general, because they would need like a physical manifestation. Because we know a god is made up of three things, right?
Mm-hmm. They're basically a solid, liquid, and gas. And they're also a they have their spiritual self. They have their vessel. They have their physical self, the body. The cognitive self is like the vessel's mind.
If you made an atium sword, it'd be so cool.
What would be the point of that, though?
I don't know, but
I mean, we don't know the properties of atium. Maybe it's really fucking strong.
That's true. To be a body of like
or
a god,
a Rasium sword.
Yeah,
I mean,
those metals are both rare enough that no one's thought to try and make anything out of them.
Imagine just
like the power.
Imagine just like licking the sword mid battle.
Or just in general, like what
just
if
nibbling on it.
Yeah, I mean, just having it as a ferrochemist would be pretty good, though.
That's true.
Made of the metal, so you could use it as your vessel or whatever.
Yeah.
That is very true. Oh my! I just thought, I was like, imagine an inquisitor, like someone with heme allergy. They have the sword stuck through them, and they just like stab people by like body slamming them. You just have the sword sticking through your front, and you just like fall on top of people to stab them and kill them. Just like wiggle your hips to like slice
Cultivation
people.
sounds a lot like plant life to me. You know, like cultivating, kind of like a farmer kind of thing like
Mhm.
we were talking about. But just in general, like I feel like we're gonna have like a whole planet of just like plant life creatures. That'd be pretty cool. And then I don't remember what the other name of the other
Oh my god,
person
it's gonna
was.
Autonomy.
be a planet of furries.
What was she said it, and then I tried
Autonomy.
to autonomy. I don't know what his planet would have or their planet would have. So
Obviously gonna be machines, not
I mean, you
because
know,
that's one of the things that came up to me. So like
yeah.
maybe
I
Do you
don't know.
think
Like
any of the gods that Chris listed are from her planet?
yeah, probably one of them at least.
do we know the place where she comes from?
She comes
Yes,
from
she
Taldane.
said it.
No, but
Yeah.
like, do we know of it?
The next story we're doing
Oh,
is on
yeah, I
her
think
planet,
it's whatever the
Taldane.
fuck it's called. Yeah,
Mm.
Yes.
she was a scholar of Stormlight or whatever the Stormlight
Silverlight.
Archives. Silverlight, that's what it
The
was.
Silverlight Academy University.
That's it.
Stormlight Archive is a different book series.
Yeah, whatever. That's the only thing I can think of.
Silverlight, Stormlight, same difference.
They're pretty close.
Both have light, both start with an S.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna ask though about magic systems because like I think it's impossible to guess just because like who would think that preservation and ruin have metal based magic? Like
Yeah.
they don't fully correlate. Like the intent behind the powers makes sense, but like how it manifests, like there's no way to guess.
I mean, what other types of powers could there be though? I
I don't know.
mean,
We've got breaths. We've
yeah, we've
got
got breath,
we've
the
got the Aeon
metal,
drawing.
and then
Which is
yeah,
like arithmetic in general.
so we have what?
We've
Your
got
breath,
metals.
drawing, and metal. So, I mean, there could be a wood-based thing, like,
Um,
which would be cool for the cultivation plant thing that I was thinking of. Like different types of wood gives you different powers. We could have just in general, like different elements, like,
there's some Avatar shit.
yeah, right? I mean, fire, wind, water,
They also have
earth.
the secondary elements like metal. They
Oh
have like
god.
metal, lightning, and he's got the lightning powers.
I just want to see somebody fucking go in and be Gara with fucking sand and be like, whoosh, I kill you with tomb. A sand tomb. That
So
should be
I have more
fucking cool.
questions here. First of all, what do you think about the fact that Yolen has been hidden?
Which one's, oh, Yulin's the
Yolen's
planet or whatever
the
that they
main
don't
planet where
know?
Aldonesium is originally from that Chris says it
I mean-
is hidden.
I mean, it's probably hidden for a good fucking reason.
Yeah, their fucking god creator died.
Yeah,
Do you think
exactly.
people
They
still
killed the
live
fucking
there, or
god.
do you think everyone
Yeah.
got
Yeah,
killed out
100%.
when
No,
Aldonesium died?
people definitely still
I
live
feel like
there.
I feel like fucking Hoyd is from there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, Hoyd's from there.
Do you think any of the shards stayed on Yolen, or do you think they just have like no magic now there with the god gone?
If they have all of the magics.
You think they somehow still have all the magic even with even if all the shards are gone?
Well, Loki, that's crazy because if that was the first planet and all those magics come from one god, like
What if we are on Yule or whatever?
Yolen?
I thought that for
Yeah.
a second too.
And what if what if it's like stated that, we are technically that?
That would be very
So
sad.
Well, we have no powers.
Earth is definitely not a canon thing. Brennan has confirmed that, but Yolen is very much Earth-like in size, gravity, plant life, animal life.
Oh,
Yolen is
it's
basically an
Earth,
Earth
but
equivalent.
not
It's basically an Earth
Yeah,
equivalent, but
uh-huh.
Earth doesn't actually exist. It's like the technology and people would probably be nothing like Earth. Like obviously none of the history from Earth is the same, but the actual planet is basically the same, I believe.
So basically, it's Earth, but not
It's
Earth.
Earth with none of
Yeah.
its history. Yeah.
Earth without Earth.
It's probably exactly like I was saying. Like where it's a bunch of people who don't have powers, probably have no idea anything about the other worlds that exist.
Hmm.
I'm sure there are people who
Imagine,
have like conspiracy theories that aliens exist.
imagine it's like exactly like how it is right now, and then all of a sudden everyone starts getting powers. People start eating metal and
I'm
shit.
fucking. I've tried already. All right. I can't do it. I'm probably an ATM missing, to be honest.
My next question was, what do you think about the fact that these 16 original vessels were just random people that killed Aldonesium and then took the power for themselves?
I feel like random people is a stretch, in all honesty.
Well, as far as we know, like they're just like they were just people. Like they weren't
What do you mean?
special in
That
any
was
way.
No, that was the first tournament.
Oh gosh.
We murdered Alexandrian. That's our tournament. Tournament art, guys. Woo.
And also,
No, but-
what do you... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was thinking because I really want this like whole meetup to happen,
Mm.
of like the different magics, different people, and different worlds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking, like, what if it is kind of like a tournament, but instead of like, to see who's the strongest and all that, it's like to see who becomes the new Adonasium,
Mm.
who takes up the power.
Also, I just randomly thought of this question. I didn't have it down before, but do you think Chris or Naz have any powers, or do you think they're just powerless people from their planet?
No, I definitely think they have some kind of powers. She's like, oh, I'm dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean, bitch, all you got is a gun. Okay.
which is still dangerous, but
Yeah, I mean, still, all you got is a gun.
Question
Like,
is, we don't even know if
he's
a
dead.
gun could even harm a cognitive shadow.
Yeah, exactly. He's dead.
It might just pass through him.
Like, you're like to say you're dangerous and just have a gun in basically the realm of death, dead people. Like, I'm sorry.
Remember the
I was
mind.
interested in the
Think I'm
fact
not.
that he said the metals didn't glow there, right?
So he said, I believe the metal does glow, but like the metal of like solid things isn't like as like it isn't glowy. Like so the things that they've brought through that are like not mist versions, the metal there doesn't glow.
I'm acting like I understood that explanation.
So basically, if there's metal in the physical world, it manifests in the cognitive realm as like glowing. But if it's physically in the cognitive realm, like there are stools and stuff that they're sitting on,
Oh,
then I don't think it glows.
okay.
So if it's in the cognitive realm, it doesn't glow. If it's in the physical realm, it does glow. Make sense?
Yeah.
Also, my last question for that little part with the lore was, what do you think about the fact that some of the 16 thought that killing Adonasium was the right choice? What do you think that means
Well,
about it?
I was thinking about that, and if your like planet is dying or your people are dying, and the only way to save them is to get power and like enough power to save them, like it could be a hero of ages type of shit.
The 16 hero of ages.
Mythic.
I mean, not wrong. Like, everybody thinks that they're doing the right thing, even when they're not. Or why would you do anything at all, ever?
I also just thought of another question. Do you think that 16 is only an important number because there happen to be 16 people that killed Adonasium? Or do you think it's always been an important number and 16 people chose to be 16 because it's a special number and they knew he would split to 16?
What?
So basically, there were 16 people, right, that killed Adonasium, and thus there's 16 shards. If there had been more or less people, do you think there would have been more or less shards? Or do you think 16 was an important number before the shattering and there always would have been 16 no matter how many people went to kill Adonasium?
Probably, to be honest. Probably.
I think 16 was an important number
I
beforehand.
don't know. Not sure why, but it was. Yeah, I'm sure. It's a perfect number, to be honest.
It's obviously the perfect number.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if I don't know if either one of you guys have seen Soul Eater.
I have,
But
yeah.
in Soul Eater, okay, so in Soul Eater, the kid or whatever, Death
Mhm.
Kid or whatever, makes the comment that 8 is the perfect number because no matter which way you slice it, it's always even. It's always perfect.
Symmetrical. Yeah.
Yeah, and so 16 is just doubling that. So I mean, there's probably 8 great powers and 8 lesser powers, and some, or 8
You
high
think there's
gods
like
and 8
eight
low gods.
like pairs kind of things? I know you guys were talking about earlier,
Yeah,
but maybe there's others
probably.
that are like opposites of each other, kind of like preservation and ruin are opposites.
I mean, that would be pretty cool, honestly. Yeah, 8 is just a perfect number. So
So Kelsey then mentions that ruin used to be a person, and Chris replies that the power distorts people. She also mentions how the previous deaths of the other shards were spectacular events where the god was shattered and their power dispersed. This death of preservation is more like a slow strangulation, and that seeing it in person should be very instructive. Kelsier says he's going to stop it, but Chris replies that she doesn't even know how to do that, and that they can't even reach the physical realm. Naz bringing up that Kelsier destroyed their way into the physical realm. Kelsier then brings up the Drifter and how he got through the well and took a bit of metal. Chris says damn and says they need to leave. Kelsier tries to protest, but Chris replies that they need to watch the planet die from a distance, not up close. She also mentions the Irie, which she pronounced slightly off apparently. I think she pronounces it Eerie or something.
Yep, that's how they pronounce it in the thing. Eerie. The Eerie.
Yeah. But I think he corrects
like
later
Irie
and says
better.
it's the Irie.
Yeah, I think Irie's way better.
And how she wishes that...
Actually, no, because you say he corrects it, but
is it actually
I feel like
Eerie?
they said it once. Yeah, I think they said it once that way, where it said she says Eerie, and then I think when he goes in or whatever to see them or whatever, Kelsier says Irie multiple times.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's Irie then. No, I said Irie. I don't know. They mentioned that she specifically says it weird, and then when Preservation says it later, Kelsier says, oh, he said it slightly differently. Anyway, she says how she wishes the Irie would answer her questions. Kelsier then watches Naz somehow fold the fire in on itself and put it in his pocket. Kelsier
Which is so cool.
Yeah, he's just gonna fold up this little campfire. Kelsier then secretly takes a bolt out from the stool that he'd been sitting on before handing the stool over to them to pack up.
Wait, did we already talk about the fact that Kelsier stole a fucking knife off the dude?
Yeah, that was earlier. He took the knife and then
Okay.
Naz grabbed it back. He's like, "What the fuck, dude? It's my knife."
I think that's the coolest fucking shit ever. Just you meet these
pickpocket
people
off
and
them.
the first thing you do is steal something off of them.
Yeah, he was like spinning it around in his fingers just in front of him. Like, look what I got.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think of Chris and Naz's reaction to hearing about Hoyd?
I mean, they're obviously scared of something.
Well, they know he has a
Him.
plan too. Like,
Not sure why you would be scared of Hoyd. Hoyd just seems like a nice guy, you know?
They seem scared or like at least annoyed that he somehow got through and got that bit of metal. Kelsier then begs for help, but Chris replies that she can't even help herself. She mentions that she is in exile, and even if she weren't, she wouldn't have the resources to stop a shard. She then says she can't invite Kelsier to come with them, as Ruin will be watching him. They leave, and Kelsier sits on the ground. However, Naz soon reappears and hands Kelsier his knife. He then tells Kelsier to go find the Eyrie, where the land becomes solid again, out in the ocean. Naz then leaves, telling Kelsier to take care of his knife as he's fond of it. So at this point, what or who did you think the Eyrie were going to be? Did you have any ideas?
Evil ass fucking people, for sure.
that for some reason they were gonna be like the Fates.
I see. Also, what did you think of Chris and Naz overall?
Gun bitch is a
I
fucking
like
badass.
Chris.
You like Chris?
Yeah, fucking gun bitch badass. Holy shit.
I think I might have mentioned this in the past when we first started the essays, but Chris is also the one who writes all of the Ars Arcanum at the back of the books. She's basically like the main scholar of the Cosmere, so she writes all the little planet essays and she writes all of the Ars Arcanum stuff. So like sometimes in the Ars Arcanum, I think you get a little bit more of it in the later books than the earlier books that he wrote, but there's like kind of like speculation stuff, and it's like, I think this does this, or I think this should be doing this, but we're not sure yet. And Naz, I don't know if it was in any of the Mistborn books, but I think in some of the Stormlight books, you'll sometimes see a little name at the bottom of the maps that says Naz. And so Naz is he basically does a bunch of cartography, so he does a bunch of the maps and stuff for Chris. He's like her assistant.
Just fucking cool as shit. But I mean, it just solidifies my whole theory that fucking Hoyd is some kind of scholar who left to try to, do some amazing thing, like bring back Alnazine.
Hoyd's like Chris's like nemesis in scholarly pursuits.
It's a scholarly rival.
Okay.
Scholarly rivalry.
I mean, he seems to be one step ahead of them, so.
They were both competing for first place in their classes when they were in university. Hoyd was the type who never had to study and always got 100%.
Maybe they're also from that planet. No, because they said they.
No, they're from Kaldane.
But yeah, true.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't know where Silverlight University is. They could have met there if your theory is right about the whole like them both being scholars and everything. And then yeah, so once Naz is gone, Kelsier does the only rational thing he can think of. He eats the bolt from the stool that he stole.
The coolest fucking thought ever.
This is the only rational thing. Eat the bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 3
I found it funny though. I found it funnier though when he was like, "Oh, it's not working."
Yeah, it's gonna go right
it out.
Yeah, chapter 3 of part 3. The bolt does nothing for Kelsier. He's unable to burn the metal, so he eventually just coughs it back up and throws it away. So did you expect Kelsier to be able to use his allomancy?
No, I expected him to be able to do something though, which we find out he does. So.
Did you expect it, Darkness? Do you think he would be able to use the bolt, burn it?
No. I thought it was a dumb thing to do, but like, I mean, I guess.
I mean, if you're used to being a Mistborn, it seems smart. It's like, oh yeah, metal. I eat this. So Kelsier thinks that it will take months to get to the ocean, but he does start walking. He also calls out to Preservation, who appears and says he thinks he was listening. Preservation explains that the Eyrie are from a different world and died, but they did not die. But they're not like Kelsier. He says they built a city between worlds. So what do you think it means that the Eyrie died, but then did not die?
As in they died, but then were resurrected, maybe. Like so, they didn't actually die.
I was just thinking, what if they're from like? Do we know? We don't know where they're from, right?
You should have been able to guess where they're from based on clues. You should know.
Should I?
Yes. You know, right?
Yeah, no. Nope, no idea.
We'll get it. I'll go into it.
Then
I highlight some clues when we meet them.
Okay.
There's only two possibilities in my head, which is like the fucking scholar place or whatever.
Let me just say this: the ancient creatures that he talks about have silvery skin, and he thinks when he hears the word Eyrie when she speaks it, he sees an image in his head of dots and lines.
Okay, so we're talking about some fucking dumbass fucking book again.
He sees an Aeon.
Yeah. Another dumb book.
They're Elantrians.
Are they
No.
though? Or are
Yes.
they something bigger?
No, they're Elantrians.
Well, no, thanks for the spoil. No.
I mean, it's supposed to be kind
They
of
didn't state they're Elantrians. They never said it.
I mean, it's supposed
Not
to be
one of
kind
them ever said
it's supposed to be obvious that they're Elantrians. Which is why I had us read Elantris before all this.
so much that did.
Yep, I thought you guys would get that they were Elantrians. I see how it is. Also, what do you think it means that when Preservation says they built a city between worlds?
Exactly what he said. They built a city between worlds.
Do you think out where they are, like, they're not technically on any planet?
Depends what realm they're in. No, I'm just-
Right?
They're in the cognitive realm.
They're in the Cosmere, apparently.
So Kelsier says he's going to go see them, as they might be able to help. Preservation tells Kelsier not to leave him, that those people won't help. They'll just scavenge over his corpse when he dies. Kelsier says that Preservation can just follow him, but Preservation says that the Irie are beyond where he can go, as he is too invested in the land here. Kelsier asks if Ruin could leave when the world ends, which Preservation confirms. Preservation again tells Kelsier not to leave him as they're a team, but Kelsier replies that he needs to get help. He tells Preservation to keep an eye on Ruin and to try to speak to Vin and Elend. So why do you think Preservation is so worried about Kelsier leaving him?
Feels
Probably because he
lonely.
doesn't want to be abandoned.
Right?
He's just sad and lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave me, I'm dying. I'm dying but also dead. They're dead buddies.
I mean, not wrong. They kind of are.
So Preservation then grabs Kelsier, forcing him to look into his eyes. Kelsier is engulfed by the white light of Preservation's eyes as he sees how Preservation is everything, and his connection, capital C, to everything and everyone. Kelsier was an afterthought in comparison. He also saw all the possibilities of the future, like Atium. Kelsier then demands to see again, and Preservation hesitates, worried that it will break Kelsier's mind, but then allows it. When Kelsier goes back into the light, he looks away from Preservation and sees how Ruin is also in everything. He hates that he can see how much more tied to Ruin he is than Preservation. Kelsier then looks into the future before eventually falling to his knees and out of Preservation's vision. He says that in all the futures he saw, he didn't once defeat Ruin. Kelsier, however, says that Vin can beat him, but Preservation says that it is a small chance. Kelsier insists it is hope and that he saw that he needs to head west. Preservation warns him about trusting the visions of the future, as it takes a lot to understand them, but Kelsier says he can think of nothing else to do. So what did you think about Kelsier looking into the mind of the god of Preservation?
I got an answer, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That was a pretty cool perspective.
He said it's called Defiant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a non-Cosmere book. No, I've not read it.
Okay. Wait, so it's something I can read?
Yeah, it is something you can read.
Oh, okay.
You can read anything non-Cosmere mythic.
Okay. Oh, he also says something called Yumi, the Nightmare.
I have read
Okay.
Yumi, and I've read Sunlit Man,
Oh.
Sunlight Man, which is after Yumi.
Okay. All right. Are those Cosmere or?
Those are Cosmere.
Okay. So we'll get those eventually.
Yeah, Yumi and Sunlight Man are Cosmere.
Okay. Thank you. What was the question now? Sorry.
My question was, what do you think about Kelsier looking into Preservation's mind and like seeing how he sees everything? I think Darkness has
I don't
started
know.
talking.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Darkness.
Finished. That was literally just an interesting perspective.
Okay.
Like the god, like being able to, like, you know, sense and be, and giving that perspective to Immortal in general.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool though. And then when he's like, "I want put me back in,"
Preservation's
was
like,
like,
what?
man's addicted. Holy shit!
He's like, are you okay? It might like completely break your mind, dude. He's like, no, do
My
it.
mind was broken already.
He's like, just do it. Kelsier
need
wishes
to
he was a
see.
god. So Kelsier also says that Preservation needs to try to get through to Vin, or maybe Sazed, as he can't get through to Vin. Preservation then mentions that Ruin is trying to break Sazed. Kelsier says to try to get through to them anyways, and that he isn't going to ask for help from the Irie, but rob them. Which is very Kelsier.
Uh-huh.
It's like, no, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm going to take something from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get Part 4, Journey. Chapter 1. Kelsier runs alongside a river, out of the Luthadel region. He thinks that he is sure that Vin can defeat Ruin, as sure as he is that he can't. He also thinks that the Irie have something dangerous that he can use against Ruin, although he isn't sure exactly what. As he runs, he thinks that he wishes he had pewter, but at the same time, his body doesn't grow tired unless he thought too hard about the fact that he should be tired. And Kelsier was very good at lying to himself. He also thinks that he hopes Finn can hold out long enough for him to be able to find something to help her. So what did you think Kelsier might find with the Irie that would be able to help him stop Ruin? Do you have any guesses?
I don't know. I feel like he's just looking for help. at this point. I don't think he really thinks about what
Well, because I
what
think
they have to
he says
offer.
he saw something, but he didn't see exactly what it was. He just knows there's something there that might be able to help.
Could it be the sphere?
Well, yeah, we know that he wanted to get the sphere, but I was saying, like, back then. Did you have any guesses?
No, I was completely just trying to figure out who these people are.
Chapter 2. Kelsier notices that he's gone to a small canal-side town called Longsfollow, which is well outside the central dominance. He's surprised that he had gotten so far, but his sense of time was skewed without the need to eat, and with ruin obscuring the small sun. His mind starts to cause him to feel exhausted, as if he is suffering from pewter drag. He sits down next to some plants that were growing alongside the canal, knowing that the plants seemed to grow wherever water was in the real world, even from cups of water. Occasionally he also found stranger plants in the places between where people lived, where the ground grew more firm. Kelsier begins walking, trying to get his mind off his supposed exhaustion. He thinks that he had killed 8 nobles here when he visited once with Mare, because the nobles had killed a girl for spilling their tea. He had only left one noble alive, a woman who was pregnant. He also thinks that after they left, inquisitors had come and tortured and killed many people they had known to try to figure out who killed the nobles. He killed, and then others in turn killed. Just like how he had killed the Lord Ruler just for Ruin to now take over. Kelsier goes into the room he and Mare had shared here and calls out to Preservation, asking if he would be with Mare if he had died with her. However, Preservation doesn't answer. Kelsier then notices that the person who is currently occupying the room seems to be able to hear him. He touches the man and hears the man muttering to himself, and realizes that the man could hear Ruin. Like the man could hear Ruin, they could also hear him. He wonders if he can use that. He also briefly thinks about how he had just thought Gemma was mad, but now he's like, maybe he was hearing other stuff. So were you surprised that the madman could hear Kelsier just like he hears Ruin?
Was I surprised? No, not at all.
Were you surprised,
I'm
Douglas?
more surprised that Ben didn't hear him.
Kind of. I don't know. I figured it would be like a god thing only, but then again,
Elsier's a god, yeah.
I was gonna make that joke, but I was like, I
Elsier's
know.
a god.
As Kelsier leaves the room, he wonders if Mare is still around in that place beyond, or if that is a final death. He also thinks that she couldn't have expected him to just move on, although he thinks that everyone else seems to go willingly. Even the Lord Ruler. However, he wouldn't let himself die, even to be with her. He then continues running. What do you think of the fact that Kelsier is so determined to live, even if it means being without Mare?
Kinda crazy.
I think he has commitment issues.
Do you even love somebody if you know you don't want to be with them? That's crazy.
He's like, damn, there's a place beyond here where people's souls might still be, but nah, I'm not gonna go be with my wife. Fuck that.
Not low key. He made a good decision because otherwise he would be consumed.
Yum, 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 yum.
I'm telling you, this is going into like some other god's stomach or some shit.
So I have a theory.
Mm.
Okay, kind of based on the theory that every god has a counterpart kind of idea. So like 8 higher, 8 lower kind of idea.
Yeah.
What if Adonasium also has a counterpart? And what
You
if
think there's another
6
god out there?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
And what if, like Ruin, he was trying to kill Adonasium, so he sent the other 16 people to do so?
Oh my god, that would be like the chaos and order manifestation for Greek mythology. Like the 2 most primordial gods.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought and a theory.
Be interesting.
A Cosmere theory.
But then, you know what would be cool if they are opposites and it's like, like what if it's like a harmony type of thing? The ultimate god, like.
That's just a thought.
Also, do you think everything has an opposite? Do you think devotion and dominion are opposites, or did they just happen, even though they're not opposites, so they just happen to go to a planet together?
They're probably
it could be that their opposites are somewhere else and they're just like butt buddies.
Oh my god.
So
what's the definition
knows?
of dominion?
Huh?
The definition
What is the
of dominion.
opposite of dominion?
Well, no, the definition, I said.
Oh.
I mean, they could be considered opposites, because devotion is like basically religion, and dominion's like government or control, sovereignty.
Does that mean that
you could kind of say that
autonomy might be the opposites of each other?
I don't know. Do you think they're opposites, or do you think that they're just
no?
randomly
I feel like they're two different. I honestly feel like they're 2 different gods or 2 different.
What would their opposites be then? Do you think?
Thanks. I'm trying to think of what's the opposite of cultivation.
Maybe like industry, like destroying nature.
Well, cultivation.
Yeah, I mean, but that would be. I don't know. I feel like Ruin could all easily be the fucking opposite of most things. But I mean, like you said, like it. I don't know. It could be just weird.
Like how I searched up cultivation, and then the definition is the action of cultivating land.
So what would
I
be
looked
the
up cultivation opposite, and it says the opposite of the action or process of nurturing or cultivating someone or something is neglect, abandonment, abuse, or disregard.
what are the god names we've gotten so far? Just these?
Yeah, so the only ones I've told you endowment because that's Warbreakers.
Endowment. Okay.
Yes, so there's endowment, there's devotion and dominion, and there's preservation and ruin, and then we also have autonomy and cultivation. So I think that's 7 that you know.
Yeah.
Almost half.
7 out of the 16. That's crazy. Do we get all of the gods in all of these books, or no?
Not in this book. No, you'll get.
No. I mean, like
Like in the
all
books in general.
So
Yeah.
currently,
Like when we finish the Cosmere.
we know the names of all but one shard currently for where Brand's currently written,
Gotcha.
and we have a general
darkness
idea
shard.
of what the intent is for the final shard, but we have not been given a name.
It's darkness.
Is darkness not just ruin?
No.
All right. So, chapter 3 of part 4. Kelsier kneels down beside an old cook fire. He has stopped for a bit, as he does every couple weeks of running. He notes that as he touches the burnt logs, he can feel that it longs to be used again, as it had been for so long by many Ska families. He coaxes the fire to burn again, and it does eventually relight, the logs and flames coming into this realm fully. He then reaches into the fire, grabbing the center and closing his hand around it. The fire folds in on itself and becomes a wisp of mist that he can hold, and he places it in his pocket. So what do you think about the fact that Kelsier was able to convince this old fire pit to become fire again?
Oh, that was really cool.
You see, once I found out that I can do that, I would be doing so many other things trying to figure it out if it would work. This is literally god potential.
He's like, you could burn again. You can become fire.
This Kelsey's literally a baby god right now.
He's baby god.
I mean, aren't they all technically though? I don't know.
I'd say they're more into their teenage years if they're a shard.
I gotcha.
Clearly, we have ruin with their angsty nature, and we have fucking preservation with their anxiety.
So Kelsier learned how to figure out how to see the ash falling in the world, and notes that it is falling much more than it should be so far out from the ash mounts. He also notices Ska slowly making their way west towards the coastal towns where nobles had likely already fled. He tries to find someone mad to speak to, as he was very lonely, but there didn't seem to be anyone mad in this group. And then we get to chapter 4. Kelsier, the Survivor of Death. He's given himself a new title.
Yep.
Finally crests a hill and sees land. He now carried a walking staff, a cloak, and a pack. He then counts his little balls of mist in his pack, glad that none had vanished. He found that items that were recovered or destroyed in the physical world had their souls go back to that location. Items that had been used for a long time and thus had strong identity, capital I, but were abandoned were best as they persisted for a long time. Kelsier pulls out his fire, which is starting to fray, and a water skin which he drinks from, even though he doesn't need to. It makes him feel alive. He thinks that he needs to make his way out there, to the people out in the ocean, but he doesn't know what he needs to do then. He needs to take something that they won't give him, but he doesn't know what. He tries to call it to Fuzz, but gets no response. So what do you think of all the little items Kelsier had accumulated?
My god, he's the god of survivors.
I mean, not wrong
though.
Oh, all that man knows how to do is survive.
It's literally all he knows. He is a
And collecting
survival
stuff.
shard now. There was a shard of survival, he would be the shard of survival.
Who says there isn't? No,
There could be. Yeah, Mythic, what did you think about all the little items Kelsier collected?
I mean, at that point, I was like, oh, he's going to use them for something, but
They're his friends. He's so lonely, he's making friends with objects.
I mean, honestly, if it works for the one guy in Castaway, maybe it'll work for him.
to
His
be
campfire
fair,
is Wilson.
we also do learn.
Mm.
We also do learn from that one short story that items do have
They have souls
Life.
and wishes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how he convinced the fire to burn. Was he
Yeah,
talked to the soul of the
because
fire?
it had a soul.
He's doing it without a stamp though, which is crazy. Cause God, no, I'm just.
I think
Yeah,
it's mostly 'cause he's in the cognitive realm.
I know midnight.
Nah, it's definitely because he's a god.
Hmm.
Sure. So Kelsier packs away his water skin and gets up, and then sees a figure with red hair behind him. He takes out his knife as Ruin speaks through his puppet, saying that his colleague is busy, but he can pass along a message. Kelsier tells him to stay back, but he just says that he is everywhere and thus can't stay back. Kelsier then calls him an evil force of destruction and pain, which seems to offend Ruin as he says he is death and change. He gives people the joys of change, but now he needs to bring the end of this elderly planet. It's a mercy. So, do you think Ruin is evil or not?
No.
Ruin is
Jealous.
inevitable. Inevitable.
Mm.
That's it.
Kelsier-
Without ruin, there is no preservation. Without preservation, there is no ruin.
There is no life without either.
Huh?
Well,
Well, what?
I don't really believe that.
Really? You don't believe that? So you think that there could be life without death or
Well, yeah,
life
because
without...
Ruin literally gave us an example of like how it would be.
Well, he says like people basically like wouldn't be able to do anything or think for themselves without him. 'Cause he says
Exactly.
he's basically changed.
They're still living though,
Are
which
they?
is just in a preserved state.
Is that really?
They may
living,
not
though?
feel like they're living because they're not feeling because they're frozen, but they're still alive.
I
Or
mean, I feel like
stasis.
that's not really living. So
Exactly what I just said.
It's like being in a coma. Are you really alive if you're like on life support? Like,
I mean,
So you should
can't
just
think.
unplug everyone else because they're not alive.
yes,
Anyways.
I don't
you
think
should.
that's how it works.
You should just unplug yourself because
I'm in a coma. Might as well.
yeah, just bloop.
So Kelsier then tells Ruin to tell Fuzz to ram something long and sharp up Ruin's backside. Which just makes Ruin laugh, as preservation can't hurt him. He says if preservation had what he wanted, no one else would think or live or age. He also calls killing preservation a mercy. He then also tries to convince Kelsier that the end is near and that if he leaves, he won't be able to greet his friends as they die. But Kelsier thinks this is just a ruse. Just like preservation, Ruin can't go out to where the Eyrie are. Kelsier packs up his fire and begins to head down the hill toward the land ocean. Ruin calls out, saying that the people in the fortress won't be able to help him, and that once he is free of this world, he will go make sure that they meet their end as well. Ruin tells Kelsier that he will kill Vin, kill all of them, while Kelsier is gone. He also thanks Kelsier for all he has done for him. Kelsier walks away from Ruin onto the ocean continent and thinks that although the words are probably lies, they still hurt. So what do you think of Ruin and Kelsier's conversation?
I mean, I 100% agree with Kelsier that he's literally just trying to make him not go out there.
Yeah, 'cause he's like,
Yeah.
why would he even like come out and talk to me and try and
Yeah.
convince me not to leave if it wasn't like there wasn't actually something out there that I could do?
Yeah, like that was one of the things I was like, yeah, that just seems correct in all honesty.
Seems to be
Yep.
Ruin's kind of go-to because he does the same thing to Vin.
Yeah.
You're gonna say something, Darkness?
Before y'all literally got it on point, but I mean,
What you were gonna say? Yeah.
yeah, but he also makes the comment of like, oh, like he would be gloating silently, you know.
Yeah, he's like,
If
oh,
he
he'd be
finishes,
like,
like-
wouldn't be talking to me, he'd just be like gloating silently and watching if
hmm
if there was nothing I could do.
I don't know why they do that so much in so many like things in general.
Mm.
When they feel like they're in danger, they're like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you know.
Yeah. Secret History Part 5, Eyrie, Chapter 1. Kelsier walks out farther onto the land. He had been hoping that he would be able to see the sun again. The sun seemed to remain with Ruin, leaving the sky empty and black. He strapped his campfire to the top of his walking staff with vines to create a torch. Even more plants grow here, making a whole jungle of brown and red trees and fronds. There are small bits of mist here as well, an ocean of ocean plants and fish. He even found a massive fish as large as a building. I just wanted to comment on like how funny it would be to see a walking staff with an entire campfire on top of it.
Right.
It's just the best. As he moves farther and farther from his world, he notes a tugging on his soul that he is sure will get stronger the farther he goes. It lets him figure out how far he is, as well as the direction he was traveling. He hiked through the jungle for days until the plants stopped growing as much, and glassy rock formations, 10 feet high or taller, dotted the landscape. He also stopped seeing the misty souls of fish, and the tugging on his soul was growing insistent. He was worried he wouldn't be able to reach his goal until he saw a light on the horizon. So what do you think of the landscape of the cognitive realm way out beyond the like normal habited area?
Completely unrelated, but
Okay.
who are the two gods in Atlantis?
Devotion and Dominion.
And which one's gone?
They've both been shattered. And their powers have kind of like coalesced together in the cognitive realm to become the door.
What if those like shattering pieces are Seons?
They mentioned Seons in the Elantris essay. They mentioned that Seons are splinters of the powers, but I don't think I don't know.
Because there's two versions.
Yeah, there's also the Skays. Yes.
So that's what they are.
I think they partially are, but I don't think they're all of the power. I think they are definitely made of Devotion and Dominion's power, but they're not like all of it. Because apparently
Okay.
the power is in the cognitive realm, and the Seance and Skaze are in the physical realm. So I think those were made. They might have been made before the Shattering. We're not sure.
Well, it depends, because it could be like 1/3 of whatever it is they're made of.
Yeah, it could be like a fraction of their power. They're definitely made of the power.
Okay, it's a good thought though.
Now we just got to figure out why they go crazy.
Well, I
when
think it's
the person.
yeah.
Well, I know when, but not why.
Well,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
it's
thing, that's the
because
drama.
the power is being blocked, remember? Because the reason the Elantrians don't fully transform is because the power is being blocked, like it's not able to fully get from the cognitive realm to the physical realm to complete their transformation. And so I think the same, because apparently the Seance and Skaze get transformed when their humans get transformed, like they grow more powerful. So I think they
Mhm.
get the same thing where their power gets blocked off, and since they're part of that power, they like go all malfunctiony.
Rauden didn't have one, did he?
He did, yeah,
They did.
it went crazy.
Yeah.
Did it get
Where
better?
he thinks about it and he visits it and like this like they kind of hang around where all the Hoed are.
So it didn't get better.
It does. It did get better
At the
after.
end, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
After he transcends this.
Okay,
but
cool. Anyway, what was the question?
The question was, what do you think of the landscape of the cognitive realm? Like all this like jungle plants and then these giant rock.
Why are we
formations.
talking about landscape? But there are so many other more important things we could be
Because
talking
you guys
about.
always bother me about the fucking descriptions.
I mean,
It's a
I'm not
jungle,
the
yeah.
one. I'm not the one talking. Okay, because
Mm.
I actually enjoyed that.
I'm glad.
Okay, I liked
No.
that. I liked that they're giving a lot of like context to things that don't really make sense. Like, why is there actual things in the supposed land of the dead, or the dead go
The land of the mind.
kind of. Yeah, but it's when I say land of the dead, I don't mean like, oh, this is the land of the dead only here. It's
Mhm.
like the pass between, but like it's where the dead go to pass between to go to the next.
Yeah, they go there
or whatever.
briefly
To the
before
beyond.
moving on.
So, like, why would there be like actual things here?
Yeah.
But I mean, you also then, I mean, maybe somebody brought it here or something with their powers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you have all these other people that seem to keep coming here. So.
Well, it seems
Well,
like
to
the
be fair,
plants. Sorry, go ahead, Darkness.
to be fair, if there's like the plants, it makes sense for them to be there because they were alive, you know.
Yeah, it seems like at least with like the animals may have been brought over, but the plants, like considering they're also growing on like cups of water that like aren't attached to any other bodies of water, it feels like they must be growing on their own potentially.
Yeah, but what are they growing off of though?
They seem to be growing off of the water land. I just imagine, just this new thing is like, I just imagine Kelsier walking through a building because he can pass through like the misty walls of everything, and then getting stopped because a cup of water is there, and just like the liquid of the water, it's just like floating in the middle of the room. Just he goes oof as like he hits this like cup of water as he's passing through a random building. I just find that funny.
Pipes would definitely be a problem.
Chapter 2 of Part 5. Kelsier leaves all of his belongings behind as he sneaks his way towards the light. The light was pulsing from a fortress of white stone and didn't burn or flicker like a flame. It was like the very walls were glowing, but not from the mist as the light was tube blue. Around one side of the building was a cord as thick as a tree trunk that glowed even brighter and connected to the fortress and ran off far into the distance. What do you think about this like light cord?
What do you think of what?
This like giant cord of light that is connecting the fortress to something off in the distance.
Honestly, I don't remember that. That's the worst part.
Yeah, so when Kelsier's sneaking around the side of the building, he finds this like giant
Oh,
tree
yeah,
trunk-sized cord of light that seems to basically
Yeah.
be powering the building.
Yeah, maybe it's what's keeping it here in the cognitive realm.
Where all the dead people are going. Imagine. I really want this to be just like a horrible ending for the dead people.
But that they're just getting absorbed into,
Energy, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're food for the gods.
So Kelsier then notices there's some guards on top of the wall, and he's able to sink into the ground by holding onto it with his hands. Once the guards pass, Kelsier placed his hands against the wall of the fortress and was able to see a rocky wall surrounded by green plants in an unfamiliar land. He places his hand against the wall again and notices the green plants and blue sky like what Mare had envisioned. Another planet that hadn't suffered the same fate as theirs. So what do you think about Kelsier being able to see into this other world that the stones are from that made up the fortress?
Well, and that's the world it's connected to, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what the city between worlds would be like, or whatever it's called?
So this fortress is, I believe, what they called the city between worlds.
Yeah. So they like what created it using the cognitive shit that he's using right now to make the
Yeah, so it
campfire.
seems like basically they took a bunch of like stones and all sorts of stuff from their world, and they have like this giant light cord that is probably connecting all the way to their world so that the stuff
Hmm.
doesn't deteriorate
I
like what
figured,
Kelsier's stuff is.
and also they need a connection back just in case,
It also, I guess, helps them find their way back to their world.
because then they have two connections, one from their world, one from the other, and now capital C.
Capital C connection. So Kelsier tries to go through the wall, but it seems to resist him, only letting him sink in a couple inches. He thinks it is because of the light. He considers his options for a moment before realizing that he can scale the wall by letting his fingers sink into the wall slightly. He has to concentrate to keep climbing as the wall keeps trying to force his fingers out, and the visions of green keep distracting him. Eventually, he finds a window that he can climb through so that he doesn't have to try to dodge the guards on top of the wall. He notices that the light continues inside, and it's likely is what keeping the stones of the fortress from disintegrating like his objects had been. As he makes his way down a corridor, he eventually hears a foreign language, and he quickly climbs out a window, hanging outside the wall as he hears the people pass. He glances at them through the window and sees that they have fair skin and long white-blue tabards and held pikes. Kelsier could feel the power of the place seeping into his soul, and eventually he finds himself being able to understand the language the other people were speaking. So what do you think of the fact that Kelsier was able to absorb some of this power that was feeding the fortress and like begin to understand things about that world, meaning like their language and stuff?
Well, when you're a god, you can conquer powers.
Right? 100%.
No, but I was more interested in
I'm
like what the
Celtic.
fuck are these languages? Like, I need a full
I need
alphabet of every
explanation. Yeah, I need
It's
language.
the Aeon.
explanations. Yeah.
It's the Elantrian language.
Oh yeah, that's so helpful. Let me just read it all since it popped out of nowhere.
So Kelsier hears.
Alphabet now.
I mean, there's a list of Aeons at the back of Elantris.
That's your alphabet, yeah.
No fucking way. Oh my god. Imagine how long it would take to write an essay.
No, I think they have probably like an actual alphabet as well, but like the Aeons, I think it's kind of like Japanese where they have like their character system plus like the Aeons are kind of like the Chinese system where like each character means like a word.
Oh.
Maybe more like that sort of writing system.
Okay.
Yeah, like hieroglyphs, you know.
Hieroglyphs or yeah, just like characters, like Chinese characters. So Kelsier hears the guards talking about someone seeing something and wondering how a Threnodite would have made it all the way out here. Once the guards had gone through a door, he climbs back into the corridor and begins to follow them, although he keeps a distance as he isn't sure if they can hurt him or not. He follows them through some doors until he peeks into a room where he sees several guards setting up a large device with a yellow gemstone in the center, with a lattice of gold holding it in place. So first of all, do you think that Kelsier can be hurt? 'Cause he's like, I don't know if I can be hurt by these guards or not.
Yes.
I wonder if they could be hurt by like weapons made out of the same.
Made of something from the cognitive realm.
Mm-hmm. Suddenly, I have a fucking like large machine gun.
I made this with my mind.
I willed it into existence.
Oh my god. I would be so invested in trying to like create my own world there.
It killed the weapon wanted to be alive again, so I brought it to this realm.
This metal
This is
wanted
why I
to
have
be
a
forged
gun.
into a gun.
Yeah, this is why I have a gun, and I'm a gun badass.
Oh my god, I would. You think you could duplicate yourself?
I don't know.
Because
I
what
want
if
it to
I
be
want to be two
I want to be two people.
You want to be everywhere like preservation?
Yes,
everywhere and
actually.
nowhere at the same time?
I kind of, yeah, I know, right? I just don't want to be as crazy as preservation.
I want to be a god.
I mean, don't we all?
Suddenly, what Kelsier calls a creature, but she's like an old woman, enters the room. She has silvery dark skin and glowed like the walls of the fortress. The guards salute her and say that they saw someone trying to sink their fingers into the walls of the fortress, but that it went off into the darkness. The woman says the powers of Threnody wish to join the main stage, and then tells them to engage the device. Kelsier does not think this device will go well for him, and he quickly tries to run off, but the device does nothing to him, luckily, and he hears the guards say that no one from Threnody is nearby. So what did you think of this device that apparently can detect people from Threnody?
Radar.
Where's this place that you're mentioning?
So Threnody is another planet, which is another one that we will be reading about in Arcanum Unbounded.
Okay.
Eventually.
You say eventually, but we literally have one more episode of Mistborn Secret History, and then we're going to be reading the Taldane planet and Threnody on the same episode. So.
Okay.
In two episodes. in 2 episodes.
It'll be next year. It's okay.
Yeah, technically will be next year. Yeah.
It's a metal detector. Imagine.
Technically, yeah, that'll be next
Yeah,
year.
it'll be next year.
It will be.
Yeah, so Kelsier makes his way back towards the room as one of the guards say that he is sure that his forces on the Threnodite border are correct about there being no shadows around. The woman says that maybe it was something else and to leave the device on just in case. She also says she will go to speak to the rest of the Eyrie. Kelsier gets the thought that the word means age and gets an image in his head of 4 dots and some lines like rivers. The woman heads towards the door Kelsier is hiding behind, and he quickly hides outside a window, thinking that he needs to follow her as she seems important. So what do you think about there being other shadows like Kelsier from this place called Threnody?
Kind of cool.
That's where
But honestly, there's nobody like Kelsier, so.
I would assume that's where one of the places you can do the ritual thing, ceremony, whatever that one person was talking
Apparently
about.
there's many cognitive shadows at Threnody because he says that there are none nearby. I mean, there are multiple. There's not just one. A whole bunch of just ghost people, shadow people hanging around.
I think it'd be cool.
And this is where I was going to ask the question if you recognized where the woman was from, but apparently you guys didn't recognize her as an Elantrian. So.
I'm assuming though, it's like one of like from the first Elantrian, you know.
You think she's from before New
Yeah.
Elantris?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree, Mythic, or do you think she's from
Yeah,
after?
agree.
So there's
think
probably some of
she's
the
very
Elantrians that might have escaped before the whole Riode and everything.
Kind of makes me wonder if they have their powers. So.
Well, they are glowing and silvery
Glowing,
like the
yeah.
new Elantrians.
Yeah, but do they have their powers though?
If they're glowing and silvery, they should have their powers.
But they might not work in.
Yeah, we don't know if it'll work out here, but they should still technically
That's
be
what
able
I'm
to.
saying. If they have their powers.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like, do they have access to powers at all? But like,
No.
Oh, okay.
I would assume that if Kelsier went back to his realm, he would have fucking, his powers. So.
If he could make it back to the physical realm.
I don't know
If they can make
could be able
they
to.
can make it here. If they can make it here, I think he can make it back to his.
Well, they're not.
Then-
They're not cognitive shadows like him.
And they're also not missing like what was it, a head? I don't even remember.
No, he was missing half his face. He got backhanded
There
to
was a
death, remember?
spike going
Only.
through him.
Only half his face and his spike going through him. But I mean, the Lord Ruler survived all of that. So. If one
Wait,
god
we
can
know
do
he
it,
makes it back
others.
clearly. Everybody sees him. The Ska see him. Like
They
you know,
they see Tensoon.
midnight. That was the point.
Yeah.
You need to leave.
Look, I'm sorry. So anyways, he follows her down a hallway to a guard room. He goes out a window and then climbs along the wall to peek into a window that is in the room the woman entered. There's a group of the silvery-skinned people, 2 of them being darker shades than the others. They were all bald with white robes with silver embroidery. The woman he'd been following tells the others they should move up their timetable, but a man replies that not every coincidence is someone drawing upon fortune, capital F. He also calls the woman
I feel like that's a power.
Alone-no-way. So yeah, what do you think they mean by drawing upon fortune? Do you think that's a shard? Do you think that's some sort of like power?
I don't think it's a god.
You don't think it's a shard?
No. But I think
fortune?
it's a power. I think it's a power.
Yeah, fortune.
I think they're just rich.
Could be possible too. They're just their power is
Being rich.
wealth. Yeah, wealth. Oh, man. So Batman does have powers.
Damn.
I wouldn't go that far.
So another woman replies that Preservation's vessel had nearly expired and that it was getting close to time to strike. They speak about taking the shard, but worry that the person lurking around was an agent of ruin. Kelsier thinks about how someone else could take Fuzz's power once he dies, and how Fuzz had told him that it couldn't be Kelsier because he was too tied to ruin. However, Kelsier doubts that these creatures are connected, capital C, enough to Preservation to take Fuzz's power, and wonders what their plan is. Elro, the man, says that he will move forward and ask for devotion to protect them, which is another. You should have guessed that these are Elantrians. He asks for devotion. I think they also say merciful Dami at some point. Alonoe says they won't need devotion because they have her. They then head off to the vault. Once they had all left the room, Kelsier is able to force himself through an arrow-slit window somehow. He quickly ransacks the room, but only finds some bottles of wine and a few gemstones.
I like how you said somehow.
I mean, I say somehow because he's like, I somehow forced my way through this slit by like compressing my body. I don't fucking know.
Somehow I did this.
But yeah, so he finds some bottles of wine and a few gemstones, which are all real and not souls like the stones and objects Kelsier had taken previously. He then moves through a door and finds a bedroom. He finds some of the robes the people have been wearing, along with a book of symbols that he can vaguely read, although it talks about
Vaguely?
things that he doesn't fully understand, using words like connection, Adonasium, and realmatic theory. However, at the end of the book, he finds plans for a device that would allow them to capture Preservation's power and then break it to ascend themselves. Kelsier now knew exactly what he would steal from them. So were you surprised to learn that the Irie were here to take the Shard of Preservation?
Not at all, to be honest.
It's a pretty cool like concept in general.
Like, we're gonna come ascend. We will become gods.
Hmm.
And they will.
And what did you think about their device to connect themselves to a shard so that they could ascend as that shard without connection to it?
Yeah, right? Like, she lost me here.
We did that last
Suggestion?
the plans. Kelsier found plans in their book that they have, like, they've made this device so that they can connect themselves to a shard so that they are able to ascend as that shard. Like, that's their plan on how
I
to
thought we
Preservation's
just
power.
went over that.
Yeah, but I'm
Like,
saying, what do you think about the
literally
device
not.
itself? Like,
It reminds me of. Hold on, let me Google this.
What? You're Googling something about the Cosmi?
No.
what
You know what? Forget it.
okay. What did you think of the device, Mythic?
I mean, if it works, it'll be amazing for them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
And that's why Kelsier's going to come back, you know?
Alright. Chapter 3 of Part 5.
For some reason, when I thought of that spear, it reminded me of the Archimedes spear.
Mm.
I don't know what that is.
Really?
No.
Wow. You're
That's
talking about us not knowing
unfortunate.
fucking Elantrians. Oh my god.
Kelsier thinks that thievery is the most authentic form of flattery, that it was his role in life to remind people of the value of their things by taking them. However, since the Pits of Hassan, he had gone from stealing items to dreams, even though he had also taken the gemstones from that one room. Kelsier waits outside the vault, watching it as he knew that eventually they would need to take the device from the vault. It took about a week, but eventually 5 of the creatures, Lantrians, and 15 guards left on horses, although Kelsier was able to keep up with them as they didn't move quickly even with their mounts. Kelsier notes that the 5 creatures are all dressed alike and have their hoods up. He thinks that this is to be a distraction so that if someone comes after them, they can split up. Kelsier was sure that the person carrying the connection device would be Elonoe, since she was the one that was to ascend as preservation. He follows them for days, planning. Kelsier's preferred method of thievery was a zinc-coated tongue used to confuse people, leaving your targets unsure of what happened. The best heist was the one where you could take something and not even have the person notice they had been robbed. So what do you think of Kelsier's preferred method of thievery?
I mean, he did it to the one dude, and like he had just met him, so I'm sure he could do it to these people.
It reminds me a lot of Shy from Emperor's Soul, because she says kind of the same thing. Like, the best heist is like when you replace something and no one knows that it's been replaced with a fake. I feel like they would get along.
I don't know. I feel like she wouldn't like Kelsier very much.
I don't know. I feel like they would go on stealing things together. She would make the
Or
stuff and he would replace
Yeah.
it.
She's forging it and he's fucking stealing it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Darkness, of Kelsier's method of thievery?
Don't remember.
Okay.
No, like how did he do it again?
He says
my
he prefers
God.
like confusing people and like making them not even realize.
Right. Okay, I remember now. Yeah, I
Remember how-
remember everything.
remember how
I
he
was laughing
steals
my
it
ass
now?
off in that.
Yeah, Same. I was like, God, these people are stupid.
So each night, the group stopped to make a little huddle of bedrolls, and the creatures drank from jars of light to restore their luminance. However, he wasn't sure
Which is fucking cool as shit.
just drinking like light.
A fucking jar of light, and it's just like, oh, hey, light. Look. I'm like, oh my god.
But yeah, he wasn't sure how to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was gonna say it's fucking nectar of the gods.
However, he wasn't sure how to get the device he needed, as Elonoe slept with her satchel in her hands and 2 guards surrounding her. One night, Kelsier sinks himself into the ground until only his lips are above the ground, and moves over to the group. He speaks quietly to Elonoe, pretending to be Ruin and asking if she thinks she can fight him when Preservation couldn't. He then quickly moves away, as Elonoe tells the others that Ruin's vessel spoke to her. One of the women insists that her wards kept the device hidden, but Elro says that Ruin can know of them without knowing of the device. Elonoe, however, insists that they still move on. When they settle back down, Kelsier again goes over and whispers to Elonoe, asking how she'd like to die. The group does not sleep that night. He makes the next week for the group hell as he whispers to different people each night, continuing to pretend to be Ruin. He didn't manage to grab Elonoe's satchel, but he did grab another one, which just contained a glass orb inside of it. What did you think of Kelsier's slowly creating chaos in the group?
These people are just dumb.
I loved this whole
Just
situation.
the little
I thought
lips.
it was gonna be some serious, like, oh, who the fuck are you? We're gonna fight, like all this situation, like serious stuff, right? But
Just
no, it was
whispering
like,
to
ooh,
them.
spooky ruin.
Spooky ghost Kelsier.
Ooh.
By the time the group reached the jungle, they were snapping at each other from lack of sleep. The ground was
Yeah.
divided between. The group was divided between going back and moving forward. He then hides in a tree and swipes at a horse with Naz's knife as it passes by the tree. Chaos erupts and the group splits off into different directions. Kelsier moves ahead of where Illinois is going to where he had lashed his cloak between two trees with vines. He then attached his campfire to the cloak to make it look like a burning figure was floating in the trees. The small group that was with Illinois screamed and split up more. Illinois was now with just one guard. Kelsier gets out one of the robes that he had found in the bedroom and puts it on to lure Illinois further away from the group, making her think she was heading towards her group. Yeah, what did you think of Kelsier's little fake ruin person?
Honestly, fucking Kelsier is amazing. So
That filled my trickster heart.
He's got his fake ruin. He's got their robes that he stole from the bedroom to make him look like one of them, to lure them away from each other. He's got that satchel that he stole. It's fucking great. And Gemmel wanted to get this out of him. He's like, fuck this shit. It's like, no, this shit's cool, Gemmel. Fuck you.
yeah,
So Kelsier then
I
finds
mean,
his way.
Gemmel was also crazy. So
Gemmel was also talking to Ruin.
I mean, he was also crazy.
He was also crazy, but he was also talking to Ruin.
I feel like those aren't mutually exclusive.
No, they're not.
You know? Yeah, okay. I
I wasn't trying to make it seem like
he
they
is
were.
crazy. Yeah, just because he is crazy doesn't mean he's obviously talking to Ruin.
But he
I
was
think
also talking to Ruin.
But I also think he talks to himself. He's
Oh,
that
he
crazy.
probably does as well.
Yeah,
But
he's
I
a
think
crazy
Ruin
man.
was definitely talking to him at one point, because at one point Gemmel's like, "No, I don't. I want to keep this one around." Ruin was probably being like, "Kill, kill."
Kill him! Kill him!
He's
He
like,
will
"No, I
ruin
like
my
this one."
plans! Kill him!
Ooh, fork.
Ooh, fork. Kelsier then finds his way to another group and makes it seem like one of their own had melted as he sinks into the ground, the robe staying above. A woman recognizes the robe as one of Elonoe's, and one of the ancient creatures checks the satchel Kelsier has stolen to see nothing inside. They say merciful Domi, and then Elro says they need to head back. What do you think about Kelsier scaring off the rest of the Irie by making them think Elonoe is dead? Like, let me just melt into the ground here.
It's a cloak. It's her cloak.
Like, oh, all the cloaks look the same, but they somehow know that it's her cloak.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder if she has, like, very slight stitching, like, differently, because she's kind of like the leader of the group.
She probably stained her cloak and didn't realize.
She's got, like, a coffee stain or, like, a wine stain on there.
Yeah, wine in the morning, always the best.
I mean, they had wine in the room, they said. She doesn't just drink light, she also drinks wine.
I like to drink. Wait, let me not say that.
Oh,
Okay.
darkness.
I was gonna say I like to drink darkness, but wait.
Okay.
Oh, you drink yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
weird.
That sounds like wait.
Interesting. Interesting. Can you explain to us where the tap is?
Kelsier makes his way back to Illinois, and her guard, who had been making good progress getting back to the group. He, however, grabs the guard and pulls him into the darkness and knocks him out. Kelsier tells her to leave it twice, and, frightened, she leaves behind a bright glowing orb. Kelsier then tells her to leave, and she tries to say that she could serve him, but he insists that she leaves. Illinois grabs her saddlebags and heads off into the jungle, Kelsier allowing her to take the bags since she likely needed the jars of light and he didn't want to kill her. Kelsier thinks that once she meets up with the group, they may figure out what happened, or they may just think that Ruin bested them. Kelsier goes over to the orb and picks it up, seeing no way to open it other than shattering it. He thinks that this is the most fun he's had in ages. So what do you think Kelsier is going to do with this orb?
Eat it. What do you mean he's gonna ascend? Right? Right?
Is he?
Again. He's gonna become double the god he is already.
What do you think, Mythic? What do you think Kelsier is going to do with this orb?
I mean, I'm kind of hoping, like Darkness said, he's gonna ascend, but you know.
I mean, you know Vin takes the power,
Yeah.
and then Sazed.
What if it's like not just Say's being like prophesized as the hero of ages or whatever? What if Kelsier is the reason that Say's got it? He like
Leaked them
shoved
out.
the orb in his fucking head or something while he was like.
Interesting.
Wait, what if the orb is the reason? I know. I was gonna say, what if the orb is the reason all the myths just started going into like Vin? But who knows?
Don't know. We'll find out. So I have only 2 overview questions here. First of all, what do you think of the Eyrie and their plan to ascend as preservation overall? Like, do you think that, like, the fact that, like, people are trying to, like, take over these different shards and stuff, that there's other
Okay, but
people and groups out there?
I don't
I mean,
understand what the
Irie
point of
seemed
that would.
fucking. Yeah, the Irie seemed like fucking assholes. So
I don't understand what the point of that would have been though, considering that one, the planet is dying, and two, like, would they even be able to leave?
Well, I think I don't.
Is
We
it
don't
like a
really get.
storage battery? Like,
We don't really get what their full plan is. I'm assuming they probably wanted it for power. Like, they seem a little power hungry.
yeah, I get they wanted the power, but if
But
they
I'm
got the power,
assuming
they
they
would have
either
like.
thought that they could somehow stop Ruin if someone else ascended, or they were gonna wait until Ruin destroyed the planet, and then their preservation's power would also be free to go elsewhere.
Maybe it's because they had like Elantrian knowledge or whatever.
Yeah, they might have other just knowledge that we don't know.
Spooky Elantrian knowledge. Ooh.
Do you have any other thoughts on that, Mythic?
I mean, they just seem like cunts, but I just don't like them at all. Which I mean makes sense now that I know they're Elantrians.
I mean, I think that's also mentioned in, like, Elantris that the old Elantrians before the Riode were kind of full of themselves a lot of the time. They were kind of assholes.
Makes more sense to me.
My other question was, do you think Kelsier is going to be able to do anything to help Vin and the others?
Yeah, 100%.
Like I said, he's gonna shove that spear in somewhere.
Somewhere.
One can only hope.
He's just playing basketball, bro. It's like,
Oh my gosh. Do you have any other theories or anything about where Secret History is going? We are going to be finishing it next week. And then the week after, we'll be doing 2 stories. We'll be doing White Sand and Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell.
White Sand.
White Sand is the Taldane story, and Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell is the Threnody story. Threnody, which has Cognitive Shadows, and White Sand, which is where Chris is from.
white sandwiches?
White sand, not white sandwiches.
Am I hungry?
Which is where? I think you're hungry.
Yes, you are. You are totally hungry.
White sandwiches.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so if you guys don't have anything else, then I guess we'll end here.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thanks everyone for
Bye.
listening. Bye.